Welcome, alien hive minds, shapeshifting duplicates, and renegade time lords to the 228th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 18th of October, 2017, and featuring the Claws of Axos, written by Bob Baker and Dave Martin, and starring John Pertwee as the Doctor, Katie Manning as Joe Grant, Nicholas Courtney as Brigadier Alistair Lethbridge Stewart,
Alistair
and
Gordon Lethbridge Stewart.
yeah, we didn't say everybody else's middle names, so
Yes, but it's the brig. You have to.
and Roger Delgado as the Master. I am Bill Sylvie, and I'm here to tell you that it's not spelled Szechuan unless Jaleel White is offering you a chili dog. With me are Mad Matt Winchell,
I have the foot of my chair held on with regular tape.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
How's it going?
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
Everyone's flickering in and out as if they're underwater.
and Thomas Fireheart.
Hopefully I don't cough too much.
Tim
Cough
the
drops, some
Enchanter
water.
will be joining us within the next, possibly few minutes, but probably at the very least within the next hour. He is at the theater.
All right. So how are we all tonight?
Midterm week.
Oh, it is midterm.
See, I told you.
I thought that. I don't know. I guess October would be. It didn't. It's never hit me as a midterm month.
See, when you said that you were studying, Bill, I was wondering if you were going to be on this podcast too, because I figured it was probably midterms.
Yeah, it's always hit me as being early November, but I don't know why.
No,
It's
it's got to be
probably-
way earlier than that.
I don't know, because remember the fact that most schools start at the beginning of September.
Yeah.
Right after Labor Day. So it's only like, I guess it's a month and a half, and then a month and a half till the end of the... Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Normally this would be week 7. We actually had our first week of classes in August this year, so it's week 8.
Mm.
Nobody seems to know why they started so early.
Mm.
Shrug
So
shoulders.
in other words, it wouldn't normally be midterms. It would be another week or two before midterms.
It would be
But
next week. Yeah,
Ooh,
either,
yeah,
it would be
either
next
way,
week.
it would still be that midterms, exams, and papers period.
well, I freaking messed up my foot this week. I don't know how.
Yeah.
One of those things where I woke up in bed and my foot was hurting, and I don't know why. And it's gotten progressively worse over the week to the point that I'm having to walk with a cane for assistance.
Maybe it's a practical joke.
I wish.
Well, then you'd have to go get a new one.
The problem that my bed is the freaking Grand Canyon, just this huge crevasse in the middle, and my foot gets caught in it, and I turn, and my foot can't.
Mhm.
So something pops. Uh-oh.
Mm.
But I'm making do. I'm on a few pain relievers, but nothing horrible. And apparently, Thomas has gotten a cold.
Apparently.
Yeah,
Isn't it like late spring down there?
Well, that's the funny thing. Australia is a lot like the world of Game of Thrones in that we only really have winter and summer.
Mm. Well, Wisconsin's
Um,
kind of getting that way too. This is the first time we've had an actual fall, and I don't know when. Because normally
This week is effectively the start of fall here right now, which has been very disappointing thus far.
Well, normally, I mean, fall's a little worse than spring has been because it's been like winter, 80 is the way it's been going for a while. And we used to have a good spring. I used to like spring. I kept being tempted to go up to Door County and watch the blossoms fall off the cherry trees.
Mm-hmm.
Also, go
But-
get some wine. They have excellent wine up there. I would know.
But our weather is getting more severe. Global warming. But and I've noticed it over the last decade or so that our spring has gone down to like a day. Our fall is still usually about a month, but we've gotten a good month and a half of fall like weather thus far, so it's actually kind of nice this year.
Thereabouts. With little bouts of almost summer in there too.
You have basically caught an Australian cold, right? So it will be trying to kill you.
Yeah, like it was one of these cases where it started as it had a really badly blocked nose, and it was basically just a sinus infection as far as I know.
It is trying to kill you.
Well, we had a friend that lived down in Australia, and he would complain all the time that everything on us in Australia is designed to kill you. The snakes are all venomous and deadly. The spiders are all venomous and deadly. Even the cute and cuddly animals have septic claws that will kill you.
And yet they have maybe 1% of the guns of the United States and haven't all been killed.
All right, so on tonight's show, Bill will walk the walk of shame and reveal his thoughts on last week's episode. If you recall, he wasn't here because he failed to watch it.
Shame.
Yeah, I that was one of the weeks where I would lie down for 30 minutes because I was too exhausted to do something, get up and realize that 8 hours had passed.
Ooh. I'm glad I don't do that.
Yeah.
3 hours maybe, but you're not 8. No, I take it back. Every now and then I'll have a day where that happens.
When I'm averaging 3 hours a night for more than a week, my sleep gets really erratic and uncontrollable.
Every now and then on a Friday, especially if it's a cold and rainy Friday, I will get up, blink, look around, lie back down, sleep. Get up 5 hours later, look around, lie back down, sleep. And then get up in time.
Are
to
you a
welcome Aaron
groundhog?
home No, it's more along the lines of my body won't sleep for more than 4 or 5 hours at a time usually. But it's usually unable to go back to sleep. And here it's just like, I should get up. I don't want to get up. That's basically me occasionally on a Friday. It's maybe one Friday a month at the most. But it usually has to be a cold, rainy day because rain is like lullaby to me. It's just automatically.
Oh, yeah. Waking up in the morning when I don't want to get up and it's raining.
Anyway, also on tonight's show is what we laughably call the news. Because I will tell you right now, it is thin tonight.
It's going to last us like 20 minutes at best.
It is
Maybe 15.
anorexically thin.
It's Winx Club thin.
I have seen supermodels bigger than tonight's news.
I crap bigger than this news.
Geek Talk, which we have a few shows we want to talk about and a couple of other things. My rant of the week will not be happening because I really don't have anything to rant about other than my foot, and I just did that. So, hey, that's done. Our 5-minute challenge, as always. And our reviews, our final thoughts, and our ratings on tonight's episode. So let's get down to brass tacks and let's let Bill do his thing while the rest of us sit in the background and just go, shame.
Shame.
Yes, this is Game of Thrones, Bill. Shame.
Bing.
Shame.
Don't.
Bing.
If I were paraded down the street naked, people would die.
No,
Not
Bill.
something you
if I
want
were
to
paraded
happen.
down the street naked, people would die. Or they'd go, oh my god, it's the blob! Run!
You have lost a lot of weight, hun.
I have, but I haven't lost enough that's not... I'm still... In the 5 levels of fatness, I'm still pretty well into damn.
You know,
I take pride in the fact that I've never hit. Oh hell no! But I have a long way until I get down into fluffy.
I actually saw someone on campus this week that looked like a somewhat thinner version of you, and I was like, Ren's been losing weight. I wonder if that's how he looks like right now.
Not yet.
Probably not as wrinkly.
If I lied down, you could still roll me down a hill like a barrel. I wouldn't appreciate it, and I'd be swearing the entire time. I sound like Eric Cartman pissed off.
And then your heart would stop. And all right, so The Mind of Evil. Rewatched this, but still couldn't find a color version. And during the connection's red. Are you hearing me clearly?
No.
No, you're breaking in and out.
Yeah.
Come on, Discord. Thank you. It's green again. Okay. So I was a little surprised during the podcast when you guys both talked about it dragging on long and then still gave it pretty high scores. But watching it, I can kind of understand that. I think it actually managed to hold my attention for all 6 episodes, which is better than a lot of 6-parters can say. But I still don't get what the 2 subplots had to do with one another.
The Master, the end.
So ultimately, I come down to probably giving it a 4. Maybe it's maybe a low 4, but not low enough for a 3.5.
Okay, well, that basically doesn't do anything to our average.
Mhm.
I'm watching it not waver. Yeah, because I was in that same area, and by the way, I have to read this for being tardy. Shame.
Shame.
So yeah, that's. I mean, it's probably adjust the base average down to a 4.2 from a 4.25, or a 4.24 or something like that. Yeah, it was like a 4.23. Now it's a 4.2 flat. So
I give it a 3.89. Oh.
That's better than what. That's better than some of the other scores, I can tell you. All right. Alrighty. So that's your thought on the episode. Let's go on to the news. Then we'll start with birthdays, and there's not a lot of birthdays. And
I sent an image to go along with the first birthday.
So
Partially newsed.
all right. So the first birthday was on October 14th, and that's Katie Manning, who played Joe Grant, who we're watching in this serial. Turned 71. Katie is mostly retired at this point, as I've not seen her do anything big since 2015. However, she is, like most Doctor Who alumni, working with Big Finish to produce some of their audio dramas. We have seen her on like Third Doctor Adventure, not Third Doctor Adventures, but like the companion chronicles for Third Doctor, and that kind of thing. Of course.
Well, and the Third Doctor Adventures with Tim Treloar.
Oh, okay. They have replaced the Third Doctor like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Which actually is related to the image that I recently sent the Discord chat. If you guys saw that, apparently they've started recording the next group based on the fact that Tim Treloar just saved Katie Manning from the loo, as she described it, and apparently also untangled her from studio wires. So I don't know what the Master is up to.
Some nasty deviltry, apparently.
I will lock you in the bathroom because I am the Master.
Now I'm
You
wondering
shall
when
now
the
survive
latest
by the
time,
smell of poo.
I'm wondering when the latest Iris Wild Time release was.
I think it's been a while. Anyway, moving on to yesterday, and Doctor Who writer and occasional actor Mark Gatiss turned 51. Mark is, of course, going to be in the upcoming Christmas special this year, as we have stated previously. He has also had recurring roles this year in the series Taboo and Thunderbirds Are Go. The latter, I suspect, is a voice-only role.
Most
But
likely.
I could be wrong.
And he is the Unbound Master.
At least in one version or another.
Yep.
So that takes us out of birthdays, and for Lost Stories, there was no Lost Story this week. Episode news, there's no episode news. The BBC has been like a grave, not giving us anything good. No spin-off news, because there's no active spin-offs. No alumni news. I mean, I did see something about Matt Lucas, but I think we've reported on that one before, so.
Yep.
Other than that, I've seen nothing from any real companions of note. There's no awards, no merchandise news, no contest news.
Companions keep tweeting things like running into each other on cons and airplanes and things like that, but that's not really news unless
When a
you're
companion,
paparazzi.
that's we're not TMZ.
That's I ran into someone from work in a strange place.
Fancy meeting you here.
Do we have any video game or comic book news?
There's some
we're
comic book
waiting
news,
for
but
after
we
later.
don't really do the comic book
Yeah,
news, because otherwise on big news days our news would take up an hour and a half.
We
Mhm.
cover comic book special events.
If
We
it's
don't
epic.
We don't usually cover there's a new issue out this week. I do know that there are new releases, but that's not stuff we normally cover.
Yeah, regular issues are not a big thing.
Yep. So there is an event. Before you read that page, Aaron, please read what I put in the thing. Because I wouldn't have put this as news, but Bill did.
Got you. I didn't realize the time
what
frame.
thing?
Your article.
The thing about your article.
I don't see anything here about my article.
The description.
Oh!
Yeah, the text for the link.
Okay. So, yep, the Twice Upon a Time script was up for auction last Sunday.
Yes.
Not that it is up for auction still.
Yes, that's what I wanted to say, because, of course, the news article is worded in a way
It says it's still open for another 25 days.
Really?
When you go to the auction, it still says 24 days and 16 hours before bidding ends.
I thought they said it was a one-day auction. Maybe they expanded it. Because originally I had heard that it was going to be a one-day sold auction. You just wouldn't get the script until after they were done with it.
Right.
So I think we've just
maybe they did change their mind.
Yeah, I think they might have. I think we just bogarted Aaron's article.
That's okay. I didn't feel like reading anyway.
He still didn't explain what was up for auction.
It is. Go ahead.
It's the Twice Upon a Did you want to say that too, Hen? Anyway, it's the script for Twice Upon a Time, the upcoming Christmas special, which is signed by Peter Capaldi, David Bradley, and was donated by Mark Gaddis. So.
And it looks like it has a whole bunch of it looks like it's signed and probably has a whole bunch of other notations in there.
Yeah.
I see David Bradley had to write what role he was playing in his signature.
Yeah, it's still got 24 hours, 16.
Oh,
20,
actually,
24 days,
because
16 hours, and 36 minutes.
He probably did that because Peter did the same thing.
Minimum bid $50 with a $10 bid increment. Current bid is at $2,000 for this item, with value total being priceless.
And this is going to William Shatner's Hollywood Charity Horse Show, which is this big thing that Shatner puts up annually.
Judging by the way Shatner's been tweeting lately, I'd have to actually see where that charity goes to support it, because he seems to get into some pretty wacky shit.
He's been doing this for a long time, though.
Yeah, the horse show, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been doing that for a while now.
Yeah, he's been. I don't know if Shatner's gone insane or whatever, but if he did this before he went insane.
Gotcha.
And I'm pretty sure it's just his name on it nowadays, and it's actually run by other people.
What's the matter, Bill? You don't want to help kids learn Esperanto?
It's like the Jerry Lewis telethon. Stopped being about Jerry Lewis ages ago, but you know.
Gotcha.
But they still call it the Jerry Lewis telethon.
It's always about the chat.
So that looks like Stephen Moffat's signature, Mark Gaddis. I think that one with an R is Rachel Talele. I don't know what the other two are.
Nick Briggs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, that one, yeah.
Oh, actually 3, because there's another scribbly one up in the corner that I can't make out.
Which one?
Next to Peter, unless that's part of Peter's.
I see Peter, David Bradley. Who's the other one on the other side of the line from David Bradley? Stephen Moffat. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Rachel Talele, Nick Briggs.
And the bottom left is Mark Gaddis, and then someone that starts with either a B or a 13.
Yeah, I can't read these names, and they don't even list them all. Anyway.
Yeah. That's the thing. Some people's handwriting is more like scrawls. Trust me,
Yeah.
I actually look at these and I'm like, wow. Compared to that, my signature's actually legible.
Yeah, my chicken scratch looks fantastic.
I've actually been recommended to get practicing my short signature before I publish a book.
I had a friend who used to write and then used to pay me to translate for him what he wrote.
Sweet.
This was Doc, my old friend,
Mm-hmm.
whose writing looked like a combination of hieroglyphics and chicken scratch.
See,
It
at least
was-
I'm just chicken scratch.
I mean, he would write like notations for stuff or story stuff, and I would sit there and I'd transcribe it onto a computer because he couldn't read his own writing, and nobody else could. I could if I took about 5 minutes per sentence. Oh yeah, it was terrible. It's terrible, and he's not the worst handwriting I've ever seen. After that, I have to start going into the medical profession, though. Anyway, moving on to the next story.
Probably me in it. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
All right. So we have information on the Blu-ray, DVD, and Steelbook for Doctor Who Series 10, as announced by BBC Worldwide. It will be available on the 13th of November, which is a Monday.
after
Does
my
it
birthday.
say a region number on here, or is this a worldwide release?
It might be worldwide these days, simply because the fact
Usually.
that they.
Yep. Photo looks like a British release, but I'm going to click on the links just okay. The links are to Amazon.co.uk, so we'll have to check Amazon.com as well.
On it.
But in the in the meantime, the extras will be Becoming the Companion, featuring Pearl Mackie, Peter Capaldi, and Stephen Moffat, with narration by Ingrid Oliver, better known as Osgood. Out of This World, which is when Pearl Mackie stepped on the TARDIS for the first time. Osgood looking back at the debuts of other Doctors or other recent companions.
Amazon.com lists the release date as November 14th.
Okay. So, and that's considering time zones. Oh, actually, no, they're ahead of us.
It's America.
The 12th is the same time.
So,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So America is 5 hours behind Britain, so we're actually getting it like a couple days after them. But
yeah, that's still the same week.
yeah,
And that's also actually the difference there is the fact that it is typical for DVD retailers to release new DVD sets on Tuesday.
gotcha.
I mean, it's just like a tradition. It's a thing.
Mm-hmm. Sort of like movies releasing on Thursday night.
Yeah, exactly. It's when the stores get their shipments from the distributor. Well, actually, some of them get it early, but they're still technically not supposed to put it on the shelves until Tuesday. So, it's something you learn when you've got friends that work in general purpose retail. I have a friend that's an overnight stocker at Kohl's, and they do have a DVD department.
Right.
So you get to know those little details. So apparently in Britain, it's common for them to come out on Monday. So it's the same week,
Right.
just on their respective days.
I'm going to spoil the rest of the extras and say that they're all the ones that involve narration are narrated by Ingrid Oliver. I guess she needed work. The next one is
know that she's still part of the show.
Right. The next one is Smile, in which writer Frank Cottrell Boyce provides insight into the writing and filming of the episode, along with the perks of the job. There'll be interviews with Peter Capaldi, Pearl Mackie, Stephen Moffat.
And still narrated by Ingrid Oliver.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're all narrated by Ingrid Oliver. Next is Who's There? Which is Mike Bartlett and writer Mike Bartlett and director Bill Anderson discussing the secrets of making a scary episode of Doctor Who, and why the location they chose was terrifying. Featuring interviews with David Suchet, Peter Capaldi, Pearl Mackie, Rona Munro in A Modern Classic. We'll discuss the similarities between her classic episode, Survival from 1989, and her recent episode from Series 10, which I don't remember which episode she wrote off the top of my head. Then there's an episode of The Fan Show, which is probably an exclusive. Doctor Who The Finale Countdown, which is an interview with Pearl Mackie and unseen film footage from a concert.
From the concert that they had for the finale.
Okay.
It was like the CBS, or not the CBS, the BBC Orchestra of Wales. The BBC Orchestra of Wales did this special live thing counting down to the final episode. It was kind of like their version of the proms this year, since they didn't actually go have the proms.
Gotcha. There's the special binaural version of Knock Knock that we talked about when it came out. There's behind the scenes for the return of Dr. Mysterio. There's a short documentary which accompanied that. I think it might have been in the theatrical release called A New Kind of Hero.
Yes, it was.
There's also a behind the scenes of the Series 10 finale, The Doctor Falls. There's also deleted scenes and audio commentaries.
I always like to take a look at the deleted scenes because that gives you some insight sometimes.
Yep.
Might actually fix something that they completely botched.
You know, if you ever see a companion falling to their knees screaming, Moffat!
By the way, this is currently pre-ordering for $60.77 US from Amazon. The list price for this series, by the way, is $75. God, do you remember when these used to be like 50?
For the complete season?
Yes.
Yeah.
I knew the half seasons were less.
50 to 60.
And this is also a Steelbook Special Edition.
Yeah.
No, the one I'm looking at is not the Steelbook Special.
Oh, okay.
Oof.
It's just that's just the DVD version.
Gotcha.
Not even the Blu-ray version. The Blu-ray version
Yikes.
is pre-ordering for $70.50. Retail price of $85.
But on the plus side, it's a nice shiny box.
No, that's also not the Steelbook version. I don't know if we're getting the Steelbook version here in the U.S. because I'm only seeing adverts for the Blu-ray and the DVD.
Give us the fucking Steelbook.
I want it to be as protected as my Highlander DVD, damn
that
you.
pissed me off with Pokemon too. When I ordered the most recent games, the Steelbook was only available in the UK.
I think that might be because the company that's making them is only making them in the UK. Hey,
Bullshit.
come on. We Americans want our Steelbooks too.
Right?
Well, it's either that or they're afraid Americans will just murder each other with steelbooks.
Oh, come on. It's not like we don't have 80 bazillion other things to murder each other with. I mean, seriously, I know where there's 4 gun shops in this town, none of which are checking for background. If I wanted to murder Matt, trust me, I could buy a rifle, go to Matt's town, and murder him.
Do you know what town I am in?
Yes, I do.
Mayville.
Matt, there are days that I have plotted this very intricately.
Are you aware that I also have weapons?
And he
Yeah,
He
I
was
know.
not
That is why I occasionally thought of a sniper rifle. Just get you right through the window. At,
If
you
you're
know,
gonna see
500
me
meters.
through the window, you're gonna have to be like right on the curb, dude. It's not gonna help you much. I'll see you coming.
just hack a military satellite.
Nor, 90% of the time it's plotting to kill Barry, but every now
that's
and then
easy.
I want to kill you still.
Just set up a
Every now
bear
and then I
trap.
Okay. So, are we done with the Series 10 DVD?
I think we are.
All right. So, going into the world of books, Candy Dar Books has announced the 5th series of their Lethbridge Stewart novels are going to be limited editions available exclusively via their website.
In the UK. No.
Actually, it just says exclusively via their website. It doesn't say US or UK.
Okay.
And this is with the first book, The New Unusual, which is now available for pre-order. So I'm not sure why they've decided to go to this limited new novels in there are limited editions of 400 copies. They will not be made commercially available. Can be pre-ordered individually or as part of a yearly subscription. So this is actually kind of a dick move by Candy Jar Books. Oh my God.
This is technically them trying to milk people who prefer hard copies, yeah.
No, this is not just card copies. This is their downloads as well, I think. This is freaking Szechuan sauce bullshit, to be honest. I'm trying to figure out...
Well, these are limited editions. I'm sure there's going to be regular editions, too.
Doesn't say anything about it.
That's because they're just hyping the limited edition right now. Book will not be commercially available until March 2018.
They are selling more than 10 copies per city.
That's true.
So,
but I don't know how many of these books they've been selling normally. Here's the question. If the limited edition is a tenth or less of the amount they normally sell, why are they doing it? I mean, unless they're jacking the price of this limited edition, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. I find this to be more annoying than anything else.
Yeah, I don't know if it's annoying, but I do have my eyebrow highly raised going, is this really that popular that you need special editions now to hype even more?
Well, no, it's not just special editions. It's limited edition runs of things when you don't need to make a limited edition run.
Yeah, they don't need to, but it probably helps their sales.
Yeah. Things like that annoy me because I believe in, freedom of information, freedom of access to information. In other words, if somebody writes a story that's published, you should be able to order a copy of it. Unless it's been selling nothing for a while that it's out of print, and digital has made out of print obsolete. So I feel I should be able to get anything these days, new or old, on digital format just because of as freedom of information. It just doesn't. It bothers me. I should be able to get a book written 30 years ago by some obscure guy that never made anything else. Wow, I just started a rant and I didn't even plan it.
But anyway, their wording on this is very vague, so I'm not sure what to think of this right now, other than the fact, okay, they're doing some sort of limited edition. Why? So we'll have to wait and see on that.
I may come back to this with a actual full-grown pre-planned rant next week.
Depending on how things evolve, yeah.
All right. Anyway, so 5th series of Lethbridge Stewart novels is going to be limited.
At least the starting stuff is limited.
Not coming out till March. No. Don't guess, Matt.
We shouldn't guess that it's only going to be limited either, Randy. This could just be one limited edition, and then they do the regular.
Either way is speculation.
They're not spitting it out. That's the problem.
Just the facts, Matt. The facts is according to Candy Jar Books, their 5th series is going to be a limited edition run. The new Unusual is available for pre-order. You can order it individually or as part of this, and you can order it only through the Candy Jar Books website. End of facts. All right. Anything else is speculation at this point, because they don't permit well. All right. Big Finish news. Aaron.
Alrighty. Continue on with this, yeah? Alright, out today, Doctor Who, The Early Adventures, The Outliers. This adventure will be featuring Polly, Jamie, and Ben as they find themselves deep underground and in deeper trouble, along with the second Doctor. We should probably point that out. The TARDIS takes the Doctor, Ben, Polly, and Jamie to a flooded underground town on an alien world. The streets are empty, the houses are bare, not a trace of life. The miners working here are vanishing, and it isn't long before the time travelers are suspected of being responsible for the disappearances. But even the authorities haven't fully realized the scale of the problem. There's something else in this world, something dragging people away, and it won't stop until it's taken them all. Now, this was The Outliers was written for Ben Jackson, who was played by Elliot, I believe Chapman was the person who played Ben in the Yes Men, and apparently the writer enjoyed him so much they went ahead and created this adventure for them. So, yeah. Apparently, Elliot Chapman was the stand-in. He was recast for someone who was expected to play Ben beforehand. But yeah, but that person either pulled out or wasn't able to do it, so they chose Elliot to step in and do it, and he did a really good job apparently.
Okay, who was the original Ben Jackson?
Yeah. Whoever was slated to play him in the Yes Men.
The original one was Michael Craze. And he died in 1998.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he wasn't that old. He was 56.
I was gonna say maybe.
And he had a heart attack.
Oh.
Things I don't like to think about these days.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway, this is the second Doctor adventure as Fraser Hines as the second Doctor, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
He's on the top billing, so yeah.
Actually, and Nikki Wills is in top billing, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, as Polly.
Well, I think they're top billed because they're the two returning actors, but otherwise they are apparently ordering them in alphabetical, I think.
Yeah, that thought crossed my mind as well, but I would have to go back at earlier releases and see if that's how they always do it. I mean, they usually put the big names on top and then the width below, but I don't actually know how they order the ones on top, if there's any significance to the order.
Yeah, usually it's the Doctor and the companion listed. That's why I kind of raised an eyebrow. Because last I heard, they liked the Fraser Hines' second Doctor so much, they were having him continue on doing the early adventures.
It's also, I don't like, since I think this is one of those quasi-narration formats.
Oh God!
So maybe he's not doing as much talking.
So they may not consider him to be the Doctor. They may consider him to be Jamie, a narrator.
Okay.
Because that's what they've been doing for the early adventures.
In which case, they might be doing it in order of companion appearance. So Polly showed up before Jamie gets top billing, possibly. I don't know. Either way.
Well, this is what Simon Gurrier had to say. Since we have the time, he's the writer of this particular story. I then remembered the great scene towards the end of Jaws, the night before Roy Schreider, Robert Shaw, and Richard Dreyfuss face the giant shark, where they sit up drinking on their boat comparing war stories. So I watched Jaws again for the first time in years and realized there's lots more I could plunder.
So there you go. The writer is borrowing heavily from Jaws.
Yeah.
Then
it could be interesting.
By the way, I'm here.
Hey!
Hello. I saw you come in, but Aaron was mid-sentence.
We're just finishing the what was jokingly the news.
Yeah, I thought I heard you come
Sorry, I missed that.
It's the thin gruel version of news, literally. It wasn't anything. We've managed to drag it out this far by will alone.
So what's interesting is that in the second Doctor box set, it was Fraser listed first, and then everybody else. But in other releases like this, it's Annika and Fraser.
Okay.
So they are doing the alphabetical.
No, because they just said they were doing it the other way before. At this point, it might
for a box set.
But it might not be alphabetical. It might be in companion appearance order. I don't know.
Well,
You'd have to
either way,
ask
it's the
somebody
same
at Big
deal.
Finish. You'd have to ask somebody at Big Finish to get the details. Anyway, that is it for the news. There is nothing in the rumor mill we've heard from. By the way, one of our news sources, Cult Box, is still dead over a week later.
I've noticed that happens from time to time. I don't know what sort of issues they have, but sometimes like they'll just go dead for a month and then come back and then start up again.
Well, they're on one of those now. Then means that I've tried to look for other sources for the news and not come up with anything. Anyway, moving on to our Geek Talk section, there are 4 television shows. 3 of which I can talk about, one of which I haven't seen, but hoping somebody else has.
All of those 4 are ones that I have not seen anything recent yet.
Okay.
I wanted to see the. I'm sorry. I've been meaning to get into Voltron.
Legendary Defenders.
Legendary Defenders.
I'm going to talk about that one last, and we might not talk about the second one, Star Wars Rebels, because I only heard that it premiered like yesterday or the day before.
I think it premiered on Monday, but I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet.
Yeah, neither have I. I haven't seen it yet. I will see it sometime in the next week, so we'll cut that one for now and talk about it next week. But I do want to talk about, first of all, The Gifted, Fox's latest superhero television show that's taking place in the X-Men cinematic universe, I should say.
I heard it was kind of AU from the X-Men.
It's
like in a universe where the
according
X-Men
to
didn't
everything
exist?
I read, no, the X-Men existed. They're just vanished at the moment.
So is it like 10 minutes in the future, or?
We're thinking it's probably what was going on between what we saw in Days of Future Past and what we saw in Logan.
Gotcha.
Which is all basically supposed to be in the same universe, according to what I read. The fact that the X-Men have disappeared, the Brotherhood has disappeared, and America has turned very hostile towards mutants. I was thinking The Gifted was not going to be too good when I first heard of it. However, we've watched 3 episodes now. I'm enjoying The Gifted. I'm really liking it. There's good drama, good action. It's very well written, and the characters are characters that you care about.
It's darker and it feels like the X-Men movies. If you like that tone that they have of the persecution and the running and hiding and, just being hunted, I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it has that feel. Main characters include Blink, who you saw in Days of Future Past. Not sure if it's played by the same person, but they're doing a good job if they're not. Another one is Polaris, who you might remember from comics, if you ever read X-Men comics.
Yep.
She has powers similar to Magneto's. Another one that you might remember from the comic books, I think, is it Thunderbird or Thunderhawk? Thunderbird is also a member of that team, and they're basically a mutant underground that are basically trying to help escort mutants that are wanted by the government to Mexico, where the laws aren't as harsh. And the plot involves a family, the father of which was a lawyer that was prosecuting mutants that broke the law. Basically, the laws of the land are, if you're a mutant and you commit a crime using your powers, you go to jail and you never see the light of day again. And he was a prosecutor that was doing this, and then he discovers his 2 kids are both mutants. And one of them found out rather nastily by having a attack at a school dance and leveled half the school.
Ooh.
So they're wanted by Sentinel Services, which is a government agency designed to hunt down mutants. And they're basically trying to get out of the country and having a damn time of it in the underground. They've made contact with the underground, such and such. I'm not going to reveal the whole plot, but it's actually pretty good. On the other end of this coin is ABC's Marvel's Inhumans. Now, you would think with an MCU-related show, you would think, hey, they've done no wrong. I mean, even at their worst, Agent Carter was still watchable by most people. No, the Inhumans is absolute garbage. It is a disappointment because you're watching these characters and you just don't care. You don't give a fuck.
That seems really weird because there's a really popular Inhuman in comics right now. And from what I understand, she's not in the show at all because they're probably trying to go all the way, like back to Origins and shit. But considering the other stuff they're doing with the MCU, it seems like an odd step.
Yeah, it is. It's a really off-ball step. I mean, the characters they're using are classic Inhumans characters, the royal family.
Very popular ones, in fact, too, for the most part.
Crystal, who was married to Quicksilver for a while, Medusa. What's the leader's name?
To be fair, I had never heard of a popular Inhuman before Kamala.
The only thing I will say from them is the CGI they did on the oversized dog looks nice.
And that's about it.
That was about it, because I couldn't give a shit about the rest of it.
Do you know about the behind-the-scenes drama, by the way, with making this show?
No, I haven't heard the behind-the-scenes
Okay, so the guy who was in control before the current guy went to being only answering to Disney for the MCU universe. He's the one that's in control of the show, not the usual MC universe guys.
Oh, Jesus.
That's why he had this huge boner to get rid of Fantastic Four and X-Men, and he wanted this particular show to be the replacement for X-Men. And that's why he was also pushing it to be a movie until, again, the people who are in control shifted around and this got kicked out of the movies.
Yeah, I remember Inhumans was originally going to be a movie.
So Inhumans got pushed down into a TV show because this guy just wouldn't let it rest, and this is what he's created.
So this is the director that was going to be directing the movie.
This is the guy who was pushing to make that movie happen. The original guy who was supposed to be the liaison from Marvel does put final stamp on what says goes.
Gotcha.
Well, it is obvious that Disney Marvel has been pushing to make the Inhumans as the New Mutants. And this stems, of course.
Randy coming through garbled on Discord, or was that my side?
He was fine for me.
He was fine for me.
Okay, so it was on my side.
Yep. So, like I said, it's obvious that Marvel's been pushing to make Inhumans the New Mutants for their universe, and this, of course, stems from the fact that most of the money that comes into Marvel these days is in movie and TV show revenues.
I believe there's a New Mutants movie coming out anyway.
Yes, but it's done by Fox.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that everything to do with mutants is Fox property.
Mostly.
Yeah.
That's why, if you remember the second Avengers movie, I think Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, how they got their powers was never explained.
It's not explained, they just called them metahumans, I believe.
Yeah, something like that. Which is
or they tried to... Yeah, it was either that or they tried to imply that, like, they weren't born with them, they were kind of just experimented on and...
Yeah,
it was
either that or, it was... You were supposed to read between the lines that they were Inhumans or something. I'm not sure if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had gotten into the Inhuman storyline by then, but I think they had. But either way, they didn't explicitly say it because they couldn't say they're mutants. It's why they couldn't tie them to Magneto, because they don't own the rights to Magneto. And if Marvel owned the distribution rights, if the X-Men was part of the MCU, that wouldn't have happened. They would have established they were mutants right off the bat.
Yep.
And I can tell you that even the inclusion of those two characters was a fight dispute between Marvel and Fox.
And Marvel won out because technically they are still characters that are a part of the Avengers, so they got to at least have them.
It had to be decided by judge.
Wow.
And that's what the judge pretty much decided.
And that probably involved the death scene in Age of Ultron.
And basically the judge said, you get the rights to do Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. You get the rights to do Pietro and Wanda Maximoff. That's the way they did it. I don't know if it was done by a judge or if it was like one of those. It was down to a lawsuit, but
An
they might have
arbitrator,
settled.
probably.
They might have settled it behind the scenes and just had the judge nod on it. But either way, it came down to legal matters between those two because they both wanted them at the same time. But anyway, Inhumans is garbage. It's not really worth your time. If The Gifted and Inhumans were on in the exact same time slot, I'd be watching Fox. And that says something because you know how actually Fox has been hitting shit out of the park recently.
But they've had a switch of heads, like I think about a year or so ago, which means that the stuff they've been working on is finally coming out.
Because we're seeing decent quality out of Fox. The Orville, The Gifted, Gotham, and Gotham's been going on for a few years, so that's not the switch of heads.
The Gotham came out before the switch of heads, but some of the more recent stuff.
I think that might have been the proof in the pudding, though.
Yeah, probably.
It's like, geez, okay, we took a hit, we took a risk on Gotham, and that's just paying off in bank loads. What can we do for Gotham-like shows? Well, we have this mutant property that we could do stuff. All right, we'll run with that. Hey, I heard Seth MacFarlane wants to do a Star Trek-like thing. I know it's not superheroes, but run it! It's Seth MacFarlane that always makes us money. Except, there was the Cleveland. Let's not talk about the Cleveland show. All right. So that takes us to the third thing, and that is the 4th season of Voltron Legendary Defenders hit Netflix just a few days ago. I think last Sunday or last Saturday, something like that. I can't remember, but I know I sat down and I watched all 6 of it in one sitting. It is Voltron Legendary Defenders has been a good series since its first season. I've watched all 4 seasons at this point. I have nothing but love for it.
I've seen only the first 3 or 4 episodes of the first season, but what I saw, I definitely enjoyed.
It keeps up with that vein.
Excellent.
I think it's in season 2 or season 3. They go through a bit of a pilot switch like they did in the original. This one, they go through another little minor pilot switch, although I suspect that's only temporary. And it's keeping up. I mean, the plot is not the same.
Well, obviously, the things have changed even after like about episode 2 or 3.
Matt?
Yeah,
I lost you on that one. I don't know if that was you or me.
Don't know, but I was saying things obviously changed plot-wise after episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, and I mean, there's some major changes, but there's some other minor stuff. I mean, the latest couple of seasons has also involved Lotor. Yeah, if you know Lotor from the original, he's basically the son of the bad guy's king, the prince.
Yeah, I remember hearing of him. I've never actually seen him. I never got that deep into the original series.
Oh, okay.
I was like the early stuff. That was the stuff that kept resurfacing on like Sci-Fi and Cartoon Network.
And they're actually going to deeper on who Witch Hagar is, which was never brought up in the original series.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's making some good headway. Also, there's some character development with Pidge. Something I bitched about in the first season is they did some development with the character.
Oh,
and then
nice.
completely
they threw something out there and then just completely ignored it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they go back to it now and they establish what's going on a little more, and I'm kind of liking where they're going. Hoping this is going to continue on for another couple of seasons.
Is this another short season or is it a full
Yes, it is.
length?
It's 6 episodes.
Got you. So 3 and 4 together are basically the same
And
length as the previous season.
They have some drama episodes and they have some absolutely bizarre, fucked up, what the hell episodes. At one point, this particular season, the Major Domo, I can never remember his name, decides that they need to run this PR campaign to get their name out and get people to join their rebellion. And they do it by essentially hosting a bunch of, Matt would get this, Sentai shows. Sentai live action shows.
Nice.
Okay. That could
yes,
go to
tonight.
crazy lengths.
Yes, tonight the Voltron Force fights King Zarkon on ice. You know.
Oh God.
Watch the circus continue.
It's an absolutely hysterical episode. And but you know, it's dramatic when it needs to be. It has the lighthearted break in the tension filler episode now and then. Very enjoyable series. If you loved Voltron as a child, you want to watch this. Okay. That's all I had for television this week. We haven't gone seen movies, but Aaron and I are planning on seeing Blade Runner before next week's podcast. So
I wish my friend Fred was more readily available because I really want to see Blade Runner.
Everyone
We've
I've
switched from
seen
it
has
to Blade
either-
Runner right now.
Everyone I've seen has either said it was the worst ever or one of the best movies of the year.
we'll
I haven't
talk
seen
about.
I've
anything in
been
between.
mostly hearing good, so
So have I.
yeah.
We'll talk about it next week.
yeah, we'll find out next
Yeah.
week.
Okay. However, I do have news from the world of video games. And that is that this week marked the release of South Park: The Fractured But Whole, the sequel to the 2014 game The Stick of Truth. It came out for PC, PS4, and Xbox One on Tuesday. It is now 48 hours since the game released, and I can tell you I have played the entire game. I loved the entire game. It is hilarious. I mean, I had many concerns going into it because the original game was by and large developed by Obsidian Studios. And Ubisoft, the distributor, only got brought on board at the very end of the development process. Originally, the distributor was going to be THQ, but they went bankrupt during the development. And it got shipped around for a bit. This was 2014.
Yeah,
This-
because sworn
or
they've gone bankrupt
2012.
before then. But anyway.
No, they managed to limp along, but this was totally out of business, bankrupt. And that happened during the process, and they eventually Ubisoft picked it up, but by then I think they were like 6 months from release, something like that.
They just needed some backing to make sure it happened.
And this particular game, Ubisoft did it all in-house. This was actually the product of Ubisoft San Francisco, not the usual Ubisoft people that we normally see like Assassin's Creed games from. That's like Ubisoft Montreal, etc. So, you know, that was a big unknown going into it. There was also some little development snafus along the way. I was really afraid that it would lose the Stick of Truth feel, and like a lot of Ubisoft releases, be very buggy and glitchy on release. And I can say no, it wasn't. There were 2 glitches I ran into the entire game, one of which was very, very minor, and the other one I had to reset for, and that wasn't a big deal. They'll probably both be patched by next week. Other than that, there was no major glitches. The dialogue is fucking hilarious. It is unbelievable. I mean, Erin was watching me play this and was giggling her ass off for a good chunk of it. I was in pain because I'd messed up my foot, and I was still laughing because I was enjoying the dialogue. Anybody who's watched South Park in the last 3-4 seasons would get a lot of the references coming up. And there were still some throwbacks to older episodes that we'd seen before. It's unbelievably hysterical. I was rolling in my seat. The fact that there's a mini game where you basically have to crap in a toilet or in, various toilets, and it's an actual little mini game where you have to button push to move the, it's hysterical for a mini game like that. The actual play style has changed. Instead of being like an old-fashioned JRPG like the first one was, it plays a little bit more like a short-range, a simplified turn-based strategy game. Something along the lines of Lunar, the Lunar series, or Final Fantasy Tactics. Only, of course, like I said, simplified on a much smaller field.
Battle Ogre.
This actually wound up working rather well. I mean, the first couple times you're in a fight, you're a little like, what the fuck do I do? But you figure it out within the first couple of fights. And the first couple of fights are pathetically easy anyway. And after that, you're just kicking ass and taking names and beating up 6th graders and raisins girls and crab people and ninjas. You go through and you have a grand old time doing this. And the the plot line slowly opens up and gives you access to more archetypes. And yeah, I just enjoyed myself. They really have fun dealing with the new kid's sexual identity is a big chunk of one part of the early game, and that usually wind up in conflict with intolerant rednecks, no matter what you pick. And again, farting is a large theme in the game, like it was with the Stick of Truth. And the Stick of Truth is referenced almost constantly. From the very beginning, where you're referred to as King Douchebag, to every now and then they'll make a reference to somebody. It's like, yeah, we could beat them up, and then they'll finally tell us where the damn stick went. And it's that they make that reference that it really feels like a good and proper sequel. The gaming world has expanded to reflect changes made in the South Park layout since 2014, and they got rid of some of the more annoying aspects from Stick of Truth, like the frickin' Lost Woods. The Lost Woods isn't lost anymore. You can find your way pretty easily around Stark's Pond and everything. And several areas of the woods, of course, were torn down and new areas put up. And Morgan Freeman runs a taco shop, by the way.
I like my tacos.
Thing is, he'll sell you just about anything but tacos.
Which is why you're not having them. Here, have some of this, children.
It's like, okay, now I'm going to teach you about crafting. And I want you to take that enchilada and merge it with that burrito. And this is how you make an enchilada. You're the first person to do that.
Yep,
I'm not kidding. That's actual dialogue. It's hysterical, wonderful stuff. And I would have to give The Fractured But Whole a 10 out of 10, and it's my recommendation for Game of the Year. I enjoyed it that much. I absolutely needed this, and it came at just the right time. I'm going to be playing it. I've played through it once. I need to get a few more collects at the end. And then I want to play a couple other games so it filters out of my mind a bit, and then I'm going to go back and play it again. Probably play Stick of Truth first and go right into this. Either way, it feels good. And oh my god, the Craig and Tweak stuff. Oh god.
It's hilarious. The best.
Little backstory is during the making of this game, one of the guys from Ubisoft San Francisco goes up to Matt and Trey and goes, "Hey, have you seen this?" And they showed them some pic of Craig and Tweak Yowie fan art. And one of them looks at the other and goes, "We can make an episode about this." And they did a couple seasons back. And it's been a reoccurring thing in South Park for the last few years. And it's a major part of the storyline in this. Mm-hmm. Because I could tell you, because this is the way it starts out, Craig is on the side of Coon and Friends, and Tweak is in the Freedom Pals. Mm-hmm. And that's caused a rift in their relationship.
It's great. They use, for the Ultimate That's Summoned, they use the same song that is used for Fun Time with Weapons, if you remember that episode.
Oh, the fake Japanese song, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's Fighting Love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Only now it's used in the context of yaoi.
Yeah, Aaron finds this hysterical.
Yes.
I think they actually went to Ubisoft Osaka to do some of the stuff that they got for that.
So they updated it.
Just to let you know about the South Park episode, the fact is that the Asian girls from South Park High School started to draw Craig and Tweak yaoi, and thus the entire town decided they must be gay. And at the end of it, they basically decided to go along with it. And very recent episodes tells us that they might be more than just faking it now. All right. So yes, I highly recommend The Fractured Butthole. If you love South Park, play it. You'll love it to death. It is like a super long episode of South Park. It actually, the play itself, my first run through took me about 18 hours. Actually, no, it was 18 hours when I started this morning. I started at about 11:30. I got done at 4, so about 22 to 23 hours playtime. And that was me playing pretty much nonstop because I was in a lot of pain and couldn't sleep. So
I would like to throw in an extra tidbit for me and Aaron, but at the same time, we're also kind of out of time.
wow, we're actually out of time.
Yeah, we're
past the halfway.
Actually, we're a little over 5 minutes after, when that's about where we go to the 5-minute challenge. We managed to fill time. How about that?
Hooray!
But just a quick mention, anyways. Me and Aaron tried Killing Floor 2 as part of our Halloween stuff this week. I'm amazed at how good that game runs. I actually thoroughly enjoyed playing that. That game was a huge upgrade to the first one.
Some more.
Yes, we should really find a time to play it some more, I think. That was actually a really good romp. We played 2 games and we were just like, yes, this was actually really cool. We should come back. We need to level up more.
And the people we played with were decent too.
Yeah, most of the other players were higher level than us and they could actually run what we were doing, so...
Alright. So now we move on to the 5-minute challenge. I did it last week, so I'm exempt.
Yep, you're
Who
out.
wants to do the 5-minute challenge today?
Well, since I missed the news and I haven't gone in a while, I think I should do it.
Okay.
Alright, Tim wants to start the cycle again.
Yep.
Okay, that's not showing up, I don't think. But alright, stopwatch is ready. Ready whenever you are, Tim.
Okay.
Alright, starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
So there's a giant artichoke floating through space and it's headed toward Earth. Meanwhile, some douchebag named Mr. Chin is telling the brigadier, blah, 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 jurisdiction, blah, blah, blah. Who is the doctor? I'm in charge here. Blah, blah. And the doctor comes and says, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, but we have a giant artichoke and it's going to crash anywhere. Where's it going to crash? Crash in England. Fire nuclear missiles at it. Bang, 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 bang. Oh no, it's gone. Whoa, the nuclear missiles are going to head toward us. Abort, man, abort. Yeah! Okay, so then there's this guy on a bicycle who gets falls into the river, and then he gets out. Then he goes into the artichoke that has landed in south of England and has like buried itself in the ground halfway. So it's like one of those like bugs that like only sticks its head out. You know, very cool. And some tentacles come out and they drain the life out of him, and it's like the Brigadier, Joe, the Doctor, and Mr. Chin go to the alien spaceship, and some golden hippie type dudes say, "Hey, can we chill out on your cool planet? In exchange, we'll give you this. It makes frogs grow." and then look, and now it shrinks a frog, and it says, "I want the exclusive rights to this." Like, yeah, you got it. Because for one thing, you have to spread it out all over the world, man. But then the Doctor is suspicious of this new device, this new substance that makes things grow, and it's revealed that the Master, dun dun dun, is on the hippie spaceship, and it turns out that the hippies are really freaky alien spaghetti monsters, and they're going to kill us all and suck the energy out of Earth through this material called axonite.
Pastafarian confirmed.
But the Doctor comes up with this plan. I'm
Bless
sorry.
you.
to trick the Master into helping him put the aliens in a time loop so they can't drain the Earth. But in the meantime, the Master escapes. And the Doctor thinks he's gonna finally fix his TARDIS, but the Time Lords who broke his TARDIS had one more trick up the sleeve, and they programmed it so it can only ever return to Earth. Wah wah.
Boing.
And so this was a very trippy episode. The end.
Ooh,
All right.
just ended it at 3 minutes, 40 seconds.
Okay.
Not sure how you managed to get from wow, you're going to run late to wow, you're done in 3 minutes. But all right, so good aspects of the episode, and Tim, you're up first.
Haha.
Okay, I just loved the whole design of the aliens themselves, from like the golden skin to like it's like they were designed to like be welcoming and peaceful. Like sort of like let you let your guard down, and then the way they transformed with the flashy lights. And like the morphing into like the huge monstrosities that they actually were, and it brought to mind John Carpenter's The Thing, that thing where like it was all one organism, like in every little piece was
part of the whole, yeah.
Part of the whole. Mm-hmm. So it reminded me a lot of the Sid and Marty Krofft shows.
Apt comparison. I think that's around the same time.
Yes, it is. And I'm sorry. My brain is now comparing this episode of Doctor Who to H.R. Puff and stuff. That's not working.
H.R. Puff and stuff. A nightmare fuel for children.
Yeah.
All right, Thomas, how about you?
Just really quickly, to tie into like Tim's thing, like bringing up that they're basically like all connected hive mind thing. The joke that came to mind when rewatching it was part of the ship, part of the crew. But in any case, my favorite aspect of this was the entire thing surrounding Mr. Chin. Because that seems like such a realistic thing that would happen in that situation where this
Just this horrible politician.
Yeah, has just gotten this slight bit, like, through some happenstance has managed to get this insane amount of power that he never would have got anywhere near before, and he's just milking it for everything it's worth.
The
It's
BBC really likes to make fun of the bureaucracy of the British government. It's a little surprising sometimes how much they get away with in that regard, considering that they're the same company, or at least
they work under the government.
Ties,
yeah. The government funds
Generally,
them.
at the very least, they just allow their writers to get away with it. But I think these days they wouldn't, whereas back then they didn't care as much.
All right. Bill, you're next.
All right, so I both like and dislike this aspect, but I guess I'll go with it because it's the main thing that I can think of. It's kind of unique at this point to see the Doctor and the Master being sort of on the same side, and I guess I'll go into the parts of it that I dislike when it's time for that. But it's kind of cool to see, the Master. I think there's a scene where the Master and the Brigadier are working together and things like that, and that's really unexpected, especially at this point.
All right, Matt.
I guess I like the fact that we didn't go for the same old ploy where the master is controlling an alien
Matt.
or something.
Wait,
Hello?
All right, there you
Yeah.
are.
I'm sorry, you guys are hearing something weird and I'm not. Anyway, I like
No, we weren't hearing you at all. Was what was going on.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, the one thing I liked is that they didn't go for the usual ploy of the master trying to rope around a alien threat and suddenly the alien threat turns on him. He is actually the one being roped around by the aliens this time. It puts a whole new shoe on how the master reacts to things. Hello?
kind of broken up on my end. What was that again?
Jesus.
That-
I'm done.
that-
I'm done, alright? Everything else is working perfectly fine. I don't know why you're having issues hearing me.
Aaron, what he was saying was that it wasn't the master doing some cockamamie plan. That he was getting forced into it, which, yeah. Anyway, what's yours, Aaron?
Basically Tim took mine at the beginning, which is the design of the axons, which I really enjoyed. Basically just the whole, that's okay, but just like the whole change in their appearance, it really reinforced the idea of that just because something, or just because a certain person is very attractive looking, or that something looks really nice, doesn't mean that it's beneficial.
Yeah. All right, and for mine, I just need to reinform Matt. Yeah, it's because the master's not hatching this cockamamie plan that makes no sense when you look at it. If the master was hatching a plan that made sense, I wouldn't have the issue. But the fact is that you look at both the plans that the master's been in since we started this, and you have to go, what the fuck was he thinking? What the hell was he smoking?
Yeah.
Well, he had to deal with the
He
drumming.
wasn't thinking. That's the problem.
And then you get to deal, then you get to this one where he's not given a choice. Been captured by bad guys that are forcing him. Of course, the question comes: how did the bad guys capture him in the first place?
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently he was trying to pull a fast one and they pulled a faster one.
Either way, that it does make the fact that this is probably Rod Delgado's best appearance thus far, simply because of the fact that he's not, he's not acting on an insane plan.
He's not the logical screw up in this one.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So what didn't you like, Tim?
Okay, so I found the character of Mr. Chin to be somewhat annoying, and I know that's sort of the point of this character, that you're not supposed to like him.
Tim takes mine right off the bat.
I'm sorry. But one thing I noticed that, by comparison, I think the original Star Trek series did these sort of meddling bureaucratic characters much better.
Yeah, they did, because at least there was usually some level of a redeeming quality to a character like that.
Yeah.
Like at least they think that their plan is serving the benefit of the people or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the episodes "A Taste of Armageddon"
I'm trying to remember that one.
And the Galileo 7.
Oh yeah, well, the Galileo 7 really wasn't a bureaucrat. Mostly that one dealt with a bigoted asshole, but no, I mean, I remember there were times that people went on the ship on the Enterprise and took over because Kirk was incapacitated, and they basically were assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And they were well-meaning assholes, but they were still assholes that were trying to jump above their station. There's a reason these guys weren't on field commissions, and now they're showing it.
It seemed that Mr. Chin's motivations kept changing.
Yeah. First of all, I mean, he shows up, he's immediately openly hostile to UNIT. to the Doctor in particular because of his lack of records. And then of course wants to immediately respond to the Axons with trying to nuke them because hey, look, they might be a threat. Let's blow them out of the water, even though all we see is a falling object.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's blow them out of the sky because hey, this really, I thought this is how most people thought Americans acted.
Apparently, British were just as violent back in the 70s.
And
Hey,
I mean,
look, they're coming towards us. They might have a bigger dick than us.
and that's very much especially 70s whose vision of any military figure is pretty much that.
And the thing is, this guy isn't a military figure. He's a fucking bureaucrat.
Yes, but he's in charge of the military. He's the Minister of Defense, isn't he?
No, he's he's like an undersecretary for the Ministry of Defense.
Oh,
Yeah.
but he works in the Ministry of Defense.
Yeah.
But he works under them, yeah.
So he's part. Okay, so he's worse. He's one of the people that sits behind the military, thinking he knows better than them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the second the Axonite comes up, he's all about, I can find a way to make huge amounts of money off of this and screw over everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is basically Eric Cartman bureaucrat when you think about it. Of course, I have South Park.
Screw you guys, I'm taking the Axonite and I'm going home.
Pretty much.
Pretty much more evil than even the Master at some point.
The thing is, there is absolutely no redeeming value to the character at all. If they had done a guy that was a little bit stiffly by the book, but not belligerent, that then made that greedy face heel turn, it would have been more believable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the combination of him being a major dick right off the bat, plus also being a traitor, does not.
It's like
work
he's
well.
a major dick, and then he proves it by being more of a major dick.
Yeah.
Hello, likable, unlikable character 101. How are you doing
It's
today?
like how Tim called him douchebags, pretty much, yeah, right off the bat.
Not to mention he looks like a sack of potatoes.
He's just a complete and total waste of space. And how somebody that much of a waste of space could get into official position. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot about our president. Never mind.
Evil potatoes are everywhere, even orange ones.
I was going to say someone that much of a dick proving to be a traitor is a little too extreme. It would be like Donald Trump becoming president, but
Yeah, okay, alright.
Anyway.
Objection withdrawn, moving on.
After shit started with our own government, hi.
You know where he's just gonna poop tweet about us at 3 a.m.
Buzz news. Anyway, who's next?
who's next?
Thomas.
That was
Okay.
Tim's, so yeah.
Now,
Randy.
this is a point where I get, like, it works fine the way they did it, but at the same time, I really object to the fact that they unveiled the true nature of the accents so quickly.
I think I mentioned that to Aaron when we were watching it.
Yeah,
Like, wow, they unveiled all this really early, like the end of episode 2.
Yeah, like, this seems like, because, like, by the time the Doctor's even making you can't just judge them just because they're, like, falling into the fucking earth and all this shit. By then, we already know that they've got bad intentions.
Yeah, they spoilerized it to the audience while also at the same time the Third Doctor is already having lots and lots of questions about their methods.
Yeah, like, I feel like if you cut out all of that... The funny thing is I actually thought the crazy dude on the bike was going to turn out to be the Master for some reason.
Oh,
Yeah, me
the
too.
American the American guy, yeah. I was thinking he was the Master too.
The guy that got
Oh, you're talking about the crazy guy on the bike. Okay, no. I didn't think that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, if you cut out the American dude getting to the thing before them and just they mention his car, but you don't see him go there, you don't see the homeless dude, you see nothing. And it's just, and you could still do the Joe cliffhanger, but just not show what she even sees necessarily. Or actually, no, you could still show it, but still play up the "oh no, that was your imagination." Show none of the Master and the American guy.
It would have been best if the Doctor wasn't suspicious until he saw the Master.
But by
Yeah.
the way, this is this writing team's first script for Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if they were a
understandably, there
little-
might be
I'm-
some
they-
loops.
They
Yeah.
might have still been getting used to the format.
Well,
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean,
they
we know that
apparently did
they-
have to. They apparently did have to rewrite this a lot because apparently this was actually supposed to be set like smack bang in the middle of London,
Ooh.
and for budget reasons they had to kick it to the outskirts.
Yeah, for budget reasons, you're gonna have to cut that.
And
Especially considering how much the previous episode went over budget.
mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They had to make up for it.
And we know this team would go on to do better. I mean, this will be the team that brings us K9. So, and all the glory and hatred that goes with K9. All right, Bill. How about you? What didn't you like about the episode?
So what I didn't like was we've got this new character introduced. He's the season villain. He's supposed to be equal to the Doctor, except slightly beaten by the Doctor. But he's just finally, one up the Doctor, gotten his dematerialization circuit, and bam, he's captured by the alien enemy and just kind of loses all of his mystique and danger, and
Mm-hmm.
right, in his third appearance.
All right.
I could argue that it
Hmm.
makes them look like more of a threat because they were able to catch him, but it's debatable.
Yeah, it's kind of debatable because those aren't also the most brightest of aliens either. At points.
But you notice that's the case for most of the ones that wind up attacking the Earth.
Yeah.
Mm.
All
They
right,
don't know that the Earth is protected.
Matt.
That's it.
Including the real potatoes. Anyway, so actually, yeah, I'm gonna bring that back up since I just kind of lightly mentioned it. The Axons are easily bamboozled by their own messing with their own stuff. You can have them focus on one thing and they'll just completely forget about keeping the prisoners captured. They'll let down their shields, automatically open their doors. If you mess with their energy influx, they'll suddenly just go cuckoo crazy everywhere and people just walk out as long as they keep their minds focused. Just for people that captured the Master, they're kind of not that much of a threat either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really kind of overplaying
They should replace the mouth of their spaceship with a revolving door.
And I noticed that their plan to destroy the world depended a lot on humanity being very cooperative.
And extremely greedy to the nth degree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
They
of slightly
were
cautious.
They were aiming for the end of the original cut of the Little Shop of Horrors, and they didn't get it.
Nope. Missed it by this much.
All right, Aaron, how about you?
I'm gonna go ahead and say some of these special effects. I'm not
Don't
sure.
you like your psychedelics?
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, which kind, the acid trip or the growing and shrinking frog?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead
Both.
and talk about the creatures. For example, wasn't there an
okay.
Axonite creature that was like crawling around on the floor? It was like, or it was supposed to be growing or something.
Essentially a
floor.
puddle, yeah.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like a puddle, but look, was basically a person in a sheet,
Yeah.
a multicolored sheet. And then there was
Ooh,
another
yeah.
scene that I caught that really stuck out to me. I mean, amongst all the other bad stuff, was the wall with the arms coming out of it. It reminded me of like a fun house, only the arms have the kind of claw-like protrusions on them.
They're helping hands.
I'll remind you, Aaron, about the special effects that we're 3 years before bubble wrap even becomes a thing.
Yeah.
We're also 2 serials past the special effects where pulling an inflatable chair down on himself to die.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
the
true,
funny
but-
thing when you mention that, there's the one bit where the American guy is like trying to get away from some of the tentacle things, and it's very clear that he's like pulling them back onto himself or just holding onto them the whole time.
Okay.
Snuggle struggle.
All right, and that brings me to the thing that I don't like about the episode. New rule. If you are going to portray a American with a gruff, gravelly voice, and you can't find an innate American, at least get an actor with a gruff, gravelly voice.
Yeah.
If you notice, this guy's having trouble trying to fake an American accent and trying to talk like he's Batman.
Trying to talk like he's serious.
I didn't even realize he was trying to have a gravelly voice. I just thought he was like really
he was
soft-spoken.
trying to attempt his best Dirty Harry. Yeah.
Yeah, he was basically trying to do a Dirty Harry and completely failing because he couldn't do both at the same time.
And unfortunately, Christian Bale hadn't been born yet, I think.
Correct. And, at this point, too, I mean, it's like, for him, it's apparently like walking and chewing gum. You can get one, you can get the other, but you can't get both. So his accent kept sliding all over the place. And he kept going in and out of this growly voice like he, was having a crack in it.
I actually like the one point in that scene that he has with the master, like at near the first scene they have, where when he says "sure" at one point, I swear it sounds like he's saying that like with a thick Scottish accent or something.
Yeah,
Well,
it's almost visible cringe hearing him trying to attempt American on that.
Aaron turned to me in like episode 3 or episode 4 and going, "Is he supposed to be playing an American?" And I looked at her and going, "I'm not sure."
They say he's supposed to be American at least twice in the first episode.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, but the fact is that it was kind of a. For me, it's just the fact that I listen to judge how people are by their accents, and his was so muddled that sometimes it sounded like an American, sometimes it sounded Scottish, sometimes it sounded like he was from the North. Other times I don't know where the fuck he was, but I wasn't anywhere I was familiar with.
Of course, the funny thing is, the Mind of Evil had someone who I could have, at least as someone who's Australian, I would have thought that the person they got to play the American ambassador or whatever, delegate, whoever in Mind of Evil sounded very convincing, whether he was or not.
He still had a little bit of that "I'm trying to fake a Texas accent."
But he did so more successfully than this guy.
It was a lot more played down than when we saw it in Tomb. And I've got to say that for New Who. When they need to get somebody to do an American accent, they go fucking get an American.
Lately, yeah. Ever since at least Daleks Go to Manhattan, since then they've been doing it more often.
Yeah, there was the one in Dallas of Manhattan, the person that's trying to do the 30s Jersey accent.
Yeah, I would say that's also, they were trying to do an accent that's not really a modern accent, so nobody, I think, naturally has that accent.
Yeah, but I remember when they were in Utah, in Series 1 with, Miles Van Staten, and I had problems with nobody's accent there. So...
It still crops up once in a while, but it depends upon the role, I think.
Yeah. More often than not, though.
Attention. Angels Take Manhattan, was that pretty... Because there was a lot of New Yorkers in there.
Most of them worked. Some
that
were
that was a mixed bag.
Yeah.
Because, again, you've got people doing 30s, 40s, New Yorker accents, and...
I think most of the people at the camp worked really well, but like some of the other main guys.
No, talking about Angels Take Manhattan.
Oh, Angels. Sorry, no. Yeah, it's still a little bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mixed bag. There were some people that got it right, and there were a couple of people that were obviously faking. But the fact is that more often than not, they're getting Americans to do this, so that's good. Or at least people that have vetted American accents.
Right.
I mean, you've listened to freaking David Tennant can actually do an American accent pretty well. So can a few other people that we've seen act. It's more common now because British people are exposed to American accents more than there used to be.
Yeah. And there's a lot more this show is more likely to be, any given show is more likely to be broadcast in both places now than it was in the 70s.
Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. Back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it was kind of like we had our programming and Britain had its programming.
They never really expected an American to watch the show.
Until almost the 80s.
Yeah.
And then it started to kick off a bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, our shows didn't come over there, so people weren't really exposed to American accents except for the occasional tourist and the odd movie.
Or the news when there was a big event going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, even then, that wasn't till later, because they would get that news through like BBC World News kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I
was thinking like speeches and whatever.
Yeah, but even there,
It's only snippets.
it's very hard to get somebody by speeches. It is why after the 60s, there was a lot of people who thought the American accent sounded like JFK, which is kind of a fucked up Boston.
And even people from Boston don't really sound like that. Like that's unique to the Kennedys.
Yeah, I only met.
That's why I called it a fucked up Boston.
When I was in Boston, I only met one person with a stereotypical Boston accent. Although I did meet some people with stereotypical Italian accents that I had never seen outside of movies before.
Went to South, I heard a few people that ran a restaurant that had that thick South drawl.
I ran into somebody in, I think it was a gas station in either Tennessee or Kentucky, that had the full-on mush mouth going. The one where they mumble and sound like they're talking with marbles in their mouth.
Oh, see, when I was doing collections for the Midwest, I got that all the time.
I didn't. Yeah, but I mean, I got this. I was trying to get some information on where a turnoff was at a convenience store. Oh God, I really had problems with that one. Anyway, I think we were up to best scenes now. Or wait, no, I think we were up to me, and I was just going to reiterate what Tim said.
Well, you added actually a bit of extra, and we just covered. So
okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, the new rule. Got it. All right.
So new
best scenes.
Best scenes.
And that's Tim. Favorite scene.
My favorite.
Ooh. Easy, Tim.
And Tim dies.
No.
He's had a heart attack. No.
I'm alive. My favorite scene was the scene where the Doctor and the Master were working on the TARDIS together. Because it undershowed that there's a hit. Yes, they're mortal enemies and they want to destroy each other, but there's a history there.
And Tim steals mine. Got it.
And I just love when the Doctor takes the circuit away and says to the Master, just in case you were thinking of leaving without me.
Mm-hmm.
And the Master just kind of gives a half grin and goes, okay.
Yeah, it's like...
All right. Thomas?
I could be cruel and steal another Master one, but I'm going to be nice. And I'm actually going to go with... Like, it's weird, and it's kind of a weird choice, but... the scene where they're all about to go into the spaceship, and the reason I pick is specifically the tone the Doctor turns down Joe going with them, because it shows the character progression between his first interactions with her, where he was like, no, piss off, you'll just get in the way, compared to now where it's like, this could go wrong, I don't want you in harm's way.
That's true, although the grabbing her arm like a child kind of dampened that for me. But I see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I think it's more of it's a grandfather effect. All of a sudden, he had a little moment of the first Doctor.
I could see that.
Is the way I'm kind of reading it. It's like, no, Susan, I don't want you. Oh, wait, Joe, I don't want you in this. just play it safe.
All right.
So
that would be Bill.
So, John Pertwee, like many of the Doctors, is very entertaining at playing pissed off. So I think I have to go with the Galactic Yo-Yo.
the Galactic Yo-Yo, yes.
It's funny because I vaguely recall that line, and then when it came up in this, I'm like, oh, that's what this is.
Right.
That's the reference. Yeah, he kind of is, isn't he?
The expression on his face was just perfect.
Just pure annoyed.
All right. Matt?
Oh, which one to pick? I am going to go. I'm just kind of sorting through them, just trying to figure out which one I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with the scene where he's fighting with the fake American guy. That was an interesting scene, especially since they had to have two actors that looked very much the same, and they actually worked that out pretty well. And then they actually found a way to actually stop that particular monster from continuing to be a threat. And they actually already had their Chekhov's gun right in the room, so... Alright, they planned it, yes. Perfect.
Alright. Aaron?
I actually kind of like the scene where they age Joe as a form of torture for the doctor. Not just... it's not just the fact that they're robbing her of her looks, but they're also robbing her of her youth. And that or threatening to do so. So I thought that was, and it is kind of obvious that it seems like they use different actresses.
Mm-hmm.
And along with prosthetics, like basic prosthetics. So
yeah.
But and the psychedelic colors can be kind of a little too bright too. But otherwise, I thought it was actually a pretty good scene. I thought it was, an interesting way of threatening the doctor.
And visually, it was not unimpressive. They at least did some effort to make it look enough like Joe.
Yeah.
I had a little more issue with it, but I think that's because my brain was telling me this was 1972, 73.
Mm-hmm.
And NBC pulled off those same style special effects 10 years prior on the pilot for Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's Star Trek, and that's a better pulled together American show, whereas Britain was a little bit behind.
Technically, I think these special effects were better than the one on Star Trek. The ones on Star Trek looked like they were coated in like dust, basically.
It was hard to tell through the wavy psychedelic effects.
That I could see it fairly clearly, and I thought it was pretty good. The only thing is that being a Time Lord, maybe he'd be able to reverse the effects, but maybe it was assumed that he wouldn't get out of the situation. I don't know.
He wouldn't be able to get out of the situation as easily if she was aged like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so mine is only a little bit of a scene, and it's where the doctor is, quote, betraying, unquote, them and leaving with the master. And he's saying goodbyes to people, and he turns to Joe, and it's like, Joe, I'll miss you. Implying that he won't miss any of the other ones. That typical doctor hostility. I don't know. It just, that scene brought a smile to my face. All right.
British men are also not allowed to acknowledge that they care about one another. So he can't say that about the Brigadier.
Unless they happen to be David Bowie, of course.
Yeah. I must admit, I'm actually surprised that the thing that I avoided going with, or wasn't picked, which was the Brigadier being forced to work with the Master, because I thought that was a nice, kind of a, well, shit. Okay. Like, backed into a corner here, screw it, we have no choice. Because it was a nice moral dilemma for the Brigadier to have to deal with.
It kind of ties in with the Doctor, to be honest, too. Because you never quite expect it. It just kind of comes out of the blue. It's like, okay, I guess we kind of don't have much of a choice, do we?
Okay, so we did the best, now the worst. And Tim, you're up. What was your least favorite scene?
Okay, so my least favorite, and I mean least favorite, because I still like this scene, but I like all the ones better. Is the scene where the Master hypnotizes that guy and says, "You'll put the TARDIS on your lorry. You'll need help. Get that guard to help you." And it's like, two guys are going to put the TARDIS on the...
well, they probably know where the equipment is.
Yeah, but it would help if they established that,
It's just assumed, I guess. Don't know.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
it is a little bit of a loophole.
The weight of the TARDIS seems to wildly fluctuate from episode to episode.
Yeah, it really does.
Like, wasn't there a scene where it was carried away by like 3 primitives with no technology in the classic in the 60s?
Somewhere in there.
Mm.
I know Marco Polo, I think it was 3 or 4 men could carry the thing.
That might be what I'm thinking of.
Probably.
Mm.
But then all of a sudden, by the Second Doctor era, all of a sudden it can't be moved by tidal waves. Okay.
Yeah. It's fairly weird about what the TARDIS weighs and how much it's supposed to be and etc. I mean, we know it's pretty much freaking impervious, but still.
Mm-hmm.
Thomas. Least favorite.
The funny thing is as soon as as soon as Tim said his, I immediately thought of the bit preceding that, where the Master initially hypnotizes that guy, and the guy's stare just. Every other person who's been hypnotized so far has made it work, but this one dude playing a unit soldier just looks fucking ridiculous when he's being initially hypnotized.
Bug eyes.
And it's also clear that he's not like on an actual in an actual car. He's like just on a set in a fucking studio.
Well, he looked that way because the Master wasn't hypnotizing him directly; it was his reflection.
But it was just so funny because the stare he gives is just so like, that's no. There have been many better reactions to him being hypnotized by the Master so far, and this was like the weakest yet.
All right. Bill?
So I would say my least favorite scene is the Doctor being hypnotized by psychedelic lights. And if it went on for half that period of time, I would say, okay, I buy it. It's, they have the sound effects and whatever. But as it dragged on, you start to get like, okay, seeing John Pertwee flinch against a green screen with nothing happening is really losing its impact.
Yeah, it's one of those things you think the background should be playing music from Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. All right, Matt?
I'm thinking I'm gonna go with near the end of the last episode. Essentially, the good part is the Doctor has a plan and he puts the Axons in a time loop. The effect on the Axons attacking unit, however, is probably one of the worst effects they've ever come up with. The idea is really good, but they have the most ridiculous camera angles that the Axons should not be in. And it completely breaks immersion. It's like, oh yes, the Axon suddenly grew like 3 sizes that day before he disappeared. What happened here? What? This makes no sense.
Grow.
We're disappearing by.
Oh.
But no, it's obviously a really bad blue screen effect, and it's just like, ugh. The Axon actor was too close to screen, and they couldn't fix it, and they just shoehorned it out anyways. Oops.
All right, Aaron?
All right, I mentioned it before, but this is going to be the obvious person under a multicolored blanket.
I was avoiding that.
Yes. Because, even the hands in the walls I can forgive. Even the giant poop machine, the giant spaceship that looks like a turd, basically.
Oh, you mean the spaceship that looks like a bug's anus?
Kind of. Whatever it was, wasn't very convincing. Even that I can forgive for being the 70s and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a person under a blanket, obviously. And it was just like, okay.
Look out, Joe, don't be touched by the blanket.
It kind of took me out of what was kind of an interesting battle scene where they're basically just about slaughtering the unit soldiers, and Joe's in the middle of it and everything, and I really like that scene. And then all of a sudden, this pops up, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm watching this.
Yeah, there's that one march where the one was going through the power plant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was actually really well done, squibs and everything, and then all of a sudden this is just like, oh.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna pass, as I think stuff has been mentioned that I would have gone for, but that's about it. And I'm gonna move on to final thoughts. And I believe Tim is first.
Yes. So this was one episode that I had actually seen before watching it again for this podcast, and I remember I really enjoyed it. This is one of my favorite episodes. I love how trippy and experimental the visuals are, and I think it really strengthens the relationship between the Doctor and the Master.
Tim, you were really born about 40 years too late, weren't you?
Yeah. But what you can do?
All right.
If you want, Tim, I can suggest some great giant monster movies for you.
Oh,
Thomas?
awesome.
I guess to keep it short, this is obviously another one of those things that I had never seen this before, but despite all its flaws and that, I would still call this, like, I don't regret having watched this. It's one of those, the bad parts about it are at least entertainingly bad enough to hold it up to make the whole thing rewatchable, let alone watchable.
I can't say I agree with you there, but to each their own. Bill.
This episode didn't do much for me. The big bad was kind of a mix of the Yeti and the Nestine consciousness, and I can't say the Zygons because they didn't actually exist yet, but otherwise I would have.
A touch of them, yeah.
Other than that, I mean, I get the idea of the Master being forced to work with them, or them being forced to work with the Master and vice versa. And even the whole idea of the Axons could be done well, but I don't think this was executed very well. And I also think that an episode with an episode like this, with this premise with the Master, should have been much later in the season.
All right. Matt?
Very 70s, folks. So bring out the brownies.
Yep.
That side, I will say that some of the bad visuals were at least a little bit hidden because I had a very low quality video for this one, sadly. I do hope to maybe see a better version someday. We'll see. But otherwise, for some of the flaws in the plot and the characters, they had other things that they actually did properly for change. Like, the Master may have been underwhelmingly easily captured by the Axos rather quickly, but at the same time, at least he's not the one making really stupid decisions on how to take over the Earth. It's left to the new aliens that are fumbling every other time here. And the Master actually proves himself to be useful here and there. And in tidbits, the Doctor plays the chess game very well this time, even faking out his own allies as possibly leaving just to save his own skin.
No, he was planning on leaving.
He was hoping that he could leave, but he was not going to leave them for dead.
He wasn't abandoning them, but he wasn't planning on coming.
Yeah, exactly. But as a whole, it's a very interesting story, and there's lots of little tidbits if you look for them that lead to interesting things that are still being developed on.
All right. Aaron?
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize just how kind of bland this serial was. Like, I really enjoy the design of the Axons, and that's really kind of what stuck with me, was just the golden people, basically. And I wish that it almost feels like this maybe should have been a little bit longer and a little bit more complicated in plot. I just feel something else It needs something else. So.
Either something needed to be thinned out or something needed to be a little more amplified.
Added, yeah. So maybe a little bit more detail here and there, in plot wise. So, but yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible. We've seen worse, but yeah, I don't know if I would recommend it.
Yeah, I've pretty much watched this episode twice, and both times I've come out of it basically with the feeling of, well, that happened. It's not going to be my favorite episode. It's not by far the worst. I would pretty much think this is Doctor Who by the numbers on how to make an episode. Not a good episode, not a bad episode, just how to make an episode. How to get a C on a report card.
Barely passing.
Yeah, no. That D is barely passing. This is how to make.
Most places D's are failing still, but anyway.
No, I'm sorry, I'm old school. F was failing. D was
by definition, F is failing. Yeah.
And that's not how the school system worked last time I was in it. So, but anyway.
Yeah, now they talk to you if you're getting D's, but they'll actually let you go up a grade. But no, it's basically an episode. It happened. I can't really point of anything wrong with it. I mean, other than the cheesy 70s special effects, but it was the cheesy 70s.
Mm-hmm.
But I really can't point out anything outstanding with it either. It's just kind of there, and as such, it really fails to get my interest. Okay, ratings. Tim, you're first.
Okay, so I think I might upset some people, but I'm me, so I'm gonna give this a 5 stars.
Of course you are.
Seriously, Tim, I know some giant monster movies you'll absolutely adore.
Thomas.
Hooray.
Just really quick, I pointed this out in text, but this was supposed to originally be a 6-parter.
Oh.
As far as my score goes, I'm going to give this a 3.5.
All right. Bill?
Matt, your comment reminds me. Did you watch that DVD yet?
I haven't actually. I do know where it is though. It's in my DVD box.
I'm sorry, Bill. Can you repeat that?
Sure. I said I think I'm giving this a 3. Thankfully, it's not the black and white version because that would probably be a 2.5.
All right. Well, there technically was not supposed to be a black and
True.
white.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't
It's only
meant
a
to be.
backup, but yeah.
Yeah.
Matt?
I'm sorry, I love the cheese in this one actually, so I'm gonna have to give this one a 4. It normally would be a 3.5, but that 70s man.
Aaron?
I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 3.5.
And I am also going to give it a 3. Which gives us an actual 3.7. Although I'm tempted to throw out Tim's and one of the, either myself or Bill's, and re-average just to see what happens. Because in the case when they've got multiple judges and things like the Olympics, they throw out the highest and lowest scores and the others.
Bless you.
Yeah.
I'm constantly coughing and sneezing around here tonight.
Right. Nobody.
I hope that what you guys got doesn't transfer over to the internet. Keep it away.
Well, we don't know. I mean, Thomas has an Australian cold, so, who knows what those things can do, man.
It's already come through over the Wi-Fi.
It'll come over through the internet, man, and just fuck you up and take your lunch break. And then when you're down, it'll kick you right in the jimmy.
Go get this one right in the ghoulies.
All right, so with a undeservedly high score of 3.7,
Yay!
the Claws of Axos comes in at number 131 of our listing of 219 Doctor Who episodes. It is on par with Smile, The Destroyer of Delights, The Innocent, The Doll. No. Claws of Axos cannot be rated on the same as the Doll. I refuse to believe. I deny your reality and substitute my own.
My plan
The
worked
moon base and
perfectly.
the flatline. It is not as good as Power of the Daleks, Extremis, Pyramid, Lie of the Land, Robot of Sherwood, The Red House, Day of the Daleks, and is better than The Gift, Resurrection of the Daleks, Full Circle, and
Oof.
Tomb of the Cybermen. No!
Ooh.
No! No!
Yes, yes, yes.
God damn it, Tim.
Now that you say that, I kind of want to see if we do a new ranking where we do just, like remove the top and the bottom from each one and see how drastically it changes everything.
I'll see if there's if there's a numeric format for that, and make a new column that
Make a new column that readjusts it to that.
Yes.
Or just redo every thing and just take off my vote.
No. It's take off the top vote, take off the bottom vote, and average the remaining.
And you're not always the top, Tim. Not always.
You're not always. Usually.
90% of the time.
75%
But anyway,
at least.
number 131 of 219. That's what we have to say for the Claws of Axos.
All right. So if you enjoy listening to us bicker about scores, please go ahead and subscribe to us on twitch.tv/unearthlypodcast and an Unearthly Podcast on YouTube. You can also find us at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast and twitter.com/unearthlypod. And if you want to help support us, you can go on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast.
All right, next week we take a break from all the Earth-based unit action to go out into space, where we have to face off against the Master in Colony in Space, written by Malcolm Hulk and starring John Pertwee as the Doctor, Katie Manning as Joe Grant. I think the Brigadier's in there for all of like 5-10 minutes, and
so.
Roger Delgado as the Master.
I think that's the only Hulk story without a giant lizard. Or one of few.
Congratulations, Tim. You broke Randy's hamster.
No, it didn't break my hamster. It just hit my moral outrage.
Can you talk about hamsters after all the South Park talk? Because...
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hamsters. The poor little
We'll talk after the podcast is over.
No,
Good night, everybody.
now we broke Aaron's. Good night, everybody.
We're so cute. Why would you do that to a hamster?